yoga. We're gonna start on our backs. So you can do that anywhere. Whatever your yoga space looks like today is awesome. Just lie down on your back. And if your back is a little cranky, you can keep your knees bent and drop your knees in toward one another, and that'll help alleviate tension through the low back. Or you can extend the legs forward and just kind of lie flat. Whatever you'd like to do, just close your eyes down and take a couple of deep breaths here. Noticing the heart rate and the breath. These inner rhythms that are keeping you alive, that are allowing you to be here, present, mentally, physically, and emotionally in this moment. And maybe setting an intention in these next couple of moments in stillness, just something you'd like to think about or meditate on as we move through our practice. There are physical reasons for showing up to the mat, but there are certainly mental and emotional reasons that we need to show up. And that's that connection, that true yoga, when we begin to find our deeper purpose. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And taking your arms overhead. If it's comfortable, stretch the feet forward, point at the toes, breathing in and breathing out. And then from here, hugging the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little rock side to side, massaging through the low back. And as you do so, we're going to incorporate a little bit of a core movement here just to stabilize and support the abdominal muscles. So take your arms out like little cactus arms, keeping your feet active, your knees squeezing together. Take a big inhale here. And as you exhale, begin to tilt your hips and knees over toward the left. Just don't let those knees land all the way to the ground, so you feel your obliques and your belly muscles begin to ignite. And then inhale, come back to center. Nice and slow. As you exhale, go over to the right side. Try to keep your arms grounded. Inhale, come back to center, and exhale over to the left. And then just keep going right and left a couple of times, finding those little boundaries in the body where you feel like you need to stop, where you feel like your muscles are working to support you. One more time on either side. And then coming back to center, we'll stamp those feet down to the earth. Take your arms alongside the body now. Roll the shoulders underneath you so your chest puffs up a little bit. Pressing into your feet, you'll begin to pick your hips up, coming into your bridge pose. In your bridge pose, just take a couple of breaths here. Imagine lengthening your tailbone forward toward the backs of the calf muscles. One more inhale. As you exhale, with the same pace of your breath out, begin to tap your hips all the way down to the earth. And as soon as they make that connection, inhale, pick your hips back up. Exhale, tap the hips back down. Inhale, lift them up. Just keep going. So doing a little bit of core work here at the beginning of our practice, but also feeling your legs strongly here. So imagine you're squeezing like an imaginary block in between your inner thighs. So really feel those inner thighs working here as you lift up and as you lower. Twice more, you've got it. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Good. We'll lift up, this time holding on for 5 breaths. So as you lift, you can stay here. You can bend at the elbows, really pressing into the triceps to pick your hips up a little higher. Or you can take the hands behind the back, interlacing the fingers, and that might support you a little better here. If you're feeling strong, maybe you press down through one foot and lift the opposite leg up to the sky, feeling the hips press up. Lower body's getting a nice little workout here. And then tap that lifted foot down and switch sides if you took that option. One more breath in. And as you exhale, slowly lower yourself back down to the earth. We're gonna take that left foot, extend it straight up to the sky. Take your hands behind the back of the leg. Wherever your hands can go, they don't have to wrap all the way around. Your knee can be bent if your hamstrings are a little tight. If you feel like you have more space, you can walk the hands up a little higher, hug the leg in a little closer. And we'll just take 3 breaths here. Maybe experimenting with pointing and flexing through that left foot. If you want to give yourself a big hug, maybe on an exhale, you begin to lift your forehead up, maybe to connect with the knee. And then lower it back down. And we'll begin to cross that left ankle over the right thigh. Imagine energetically sending your left knee forward. And then if you feel like you've got enough sensation here, just stay. Otherwise, begin to pick up that right leg, hovering that foot. Maybe you thread your arms through to hold on to the shin or the hamstring. And then the key ingredient of a yoga practice is breath. So maybe begin to find a breath pattern that's a little bit deeper, a little more intentional than how you breathe on a day-to-day basis. And we'll take one more breath here. Gently releasing that foot down if it's lifted. We'll cross the left leg all the way over the right leg. We'll take the arms back out to those cactus arms. This time scoot your hips to the left slightly and drop your knees all the way over toward the right side. My knees like to hover a little bit here. That's okay. You can use something to support your knees or just keep them lifted. Left shoulder is grounded. Maybe you look over toward that left side. On your next breath in, we'll look back to center, draw the knees back to center. Uncrossing that left leg, we'll begin to extend that right leg straight up to the sky. Finding your version of straighten the leg, so there might be a micro bend there in the knee. Hands can come behind the leg to support or intensify the stretch. And then our sides, the sides of our bodies hold different amounts of tension, so just give yourself grace if this happens to be good side number 2. It doesn't really matter how flexible you are. The point is that you are feeling your body, that you're able to connect with how you're doing. A lot of times we live in a world of expectation, so we forget to just be present, to just observe without any judgment. Just a couple more breaths here. If you added anything in, be sure to do that here too. Maybe the knee to the head. And we'll begin to release the hands and begin to cross that right ankle over the left thigh here, coming into your figure 4 stretch. Right knee sends forward just until you feel a nice little stretch. You can stay here or hug the left knee in, lifting that foot off the earth. And just taking a few breaths here, keeping this right foot energized to support you. Those deep breaths are distributing oxygen into the body, into the muscles that need the release most here. So almost internally imagining that breath traveling through the body, going to those areas where you feel the pose most. One more breath. From here, we'll stamp that left foot down to the earth. Begin to cross the right leg all the way over, like you're sitting at a dinner table. Arms go out wide, hips will scoot slightly to the right, and the knees will tip over to the left. Again, your gaze can stay neutral or it can fall over to that opposite shoulder, the right side. Enjoying the balancing effect here of doing a pose, a twisting pose on one side and then the other. It's kind of like when you rinse out a washcloth in the sink. On one side you get a nice release and then you twist it the other way and you get out the rest of the junk. So now we'll come back to neutral, just enjoying that feeling of being a little more open, a little lighter through the spine, the midline. If you'd like to, you can windshield wiper the knees side to side here. You can hug the knees in or take a full body stretch. We'll just take one more breath here. And we'll all hug the knees in, grabbing for the hamstrings. We're going to build a little momentum here. So this is kind of a little massage for the spine, but if it doesn't really work for you, if it doesn't feel right, you can always just press up. But if you want to rock and roll, begin to just kind of push yourself forward and back, just building a little bit of momentum with each rock. And we'll do one more. We're going to come up to a standing forward fold. So you'll stamp your feet down and rise up, folding over the legs. For this first forward fold, take your feet out really wide and think less about touching your toes and more about connecting your belly with your thighs. So bend into your knees a little bit. No one expects your hamstrings to be perfectly open and ready for this. Head and neck relax here, maybe even nodding your head yes and shaking it no. And you can even incorporate movement, a swaying motion through the rest of the body, the shoulders, the hips. And try to stay light on those arms. If there's a variation you want to take, I like to grab a hold of either elbow just as a way to release a little deeper into the pose. And then when you're ready, begin to place your hands to your shins, rise up about halfway. Again, stay light on the hands, so just barely touch your fingertips to the shins. Use the strength of your legs and your hips to hold you up. Heart will reach slightly forward, so your back is also nice and engaged here. And we'll take one more big inhale here, and exhale, fold you down. Your next inhale, we'll bend into the knees a bit, come all the way to standing. Arms will lift up, legs will straighten out, and then you can dive back here a bit if you'd like. I like to connect my palms and drop the thumbs down toward the base of my neck. Whatever feels good to you. And then from here, we'll just draw those hands back to the heart center. Close your eyes down for a moment, just like we did on our backs in this similar position. Just connect with the heartbeat, connect with the breath. And then we'll take an inhale, lifting the arms back up to the sky. Maybe your gaze follows the fingertips. And as you exhale, come down into your forward fold. Inhale, we'll lift up halfway here. And then as you exhale, very lightly through the fingertips, we're gonna step that right foot to the back of the mat. Tap the right knee down. You can place a blanket under there to support your knee joint if it's sensitive. And then we'll rise up into a kneeling crescent lunge here. So instead of just dumping into the flexibility of the pose, you've gotta have some strength to balance it out. So imagine pressing into that heel of the left foot and then drawing the outer left hip toward the right inner thigh. And you should feel a nice security here. So you've got both strength and flexibility, that nice balanced yoga pose. And we'll take 2 more breaths in this position. You can add in any movement. You're not a statue, so you're always welcome to wiggle around. We'll take one more inhale here with the arms up. And then as you exhale, place the hands down to frame that left foot. Shift your hips back and find your version of a half split. So again, your knee might stay bent. If you're like me and your hamstrings are a little tight. Take an inhale as you lift up halfway, and exhale as you fold. And then from here, slowly begin to come forward, back into your kneeling position here. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee up. We'll walk those hands just forward of the foot so that you've got a little space there. We're gonna take an inhale and begin to bend deeply into this left knee. Pick up the right leg. See if you can get that right heel maybe about as high as the right hip. So you're kind of in a version of your warrior three pose, but this leg is working really, really hard to hold you here. Hands can stay tapping the earth gently for support, or if you want to really embrace our no hands approach today, maybe you reach that left arm back and the right arm forward. Don't forget your breath, it's your secret ingredient here. Let's take 2 more. We'll begin to release the hands down if they're lifted. Draw your right knee in to meet the left. Place the foot down and fold over your legs. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. Arms will lift up to the sky. And as you exhale, bend into your knees, sit down and back into a chair pose here. So that left leg has been working really hard. We'll give it a little break. So lift up the heel of the left foot. And then we're gonna begin to tap that left foot over to the right side. So just barely tap it down. Now your right leg starts to turn on a bit. You're in basically a curtsy position here. We'll lift the arms up as you breathe in. As you breathe out, grab that left wrist with the right hand. Begin to lean your torso over toward the right. Your next breath in, we'll slowly come back to center. Just come to standing. So 2 feet on the ground, legs straight, arms will lift up. And exhale, swan dive down to your fold. Inhale, we'll lift halfway up. Exhale to fold. Inhale, rise all the way to standing, a little bend in the knees to support you on the way up. And exhale, sit down and back to your chair. As you come into your chair pose, take a really big breath in here and out. So from here, we'll just gently begin to press a little more of our weight into that right foot and then gently begin to step your way back into your lunge position. So your hands can come down to support that transition. Left knee taps to the earth or to a blanket. Inhale, rise up into your pose. Notice right away if you are initially jumping into the flexibility or if you're going right to strength here, and see if you can find the one that doesn't come as naturally to you. So the strength is going to come from a more lifted lunge pose. We've got those nice strong legs and core. Flexibility is when we dip super far and we're not able to use the strength of our muscles. So find somewhere right in between the two. And just take a couple more breaths here. Any variations you're craving. One more breath. We'll all lift the arms up and then place the fingertips down to frame the right foot. Shift your hips back, finding your version of a half split here. Take an inhale as you lift yourself halfway up and then exhale, melt forward and down. One more breath here, just enjoying this release through the back of the leg. And then we'll bend back into that front knee. This time taking the fingertips just slightly forward of the foot. Pick up your back toes, lift your back knee up, and then we'll begin to launch into this warrior three-like position. In my opinion, it's much more difficult. So finding something that works for you here. Right knee is bent. Left leg is straight, maybe getting up out as high as the hip. Really feeling the back of that left leg fire up here. You can stay here with the hands down, or you can begin to add the arm variation, reaching the left arm forward and the right arm back. Focus on your breath, it will support you here. And releasing your hands down if they're lifted, we'll begin to step that left foot up to meet the right foot. On an inhale, rise up into your chair pose. Still feeling that right leg do a lot of work. So we'll begin to transition, lifting the right heel up. We'll tap it over, the toes over to the left side. So you're in that curtsy. Once you come into this position, you can add the side body stretch by lifting the arms up. Grabbing for that right wrist, we'll lean to the left this time. Try not to overanalyze it or make it really crazy feeling in your body. Just find something subtle and breathe into that. We'll take one more breath. Slowly coming back to center, 2 feet on the ground, legs straight. Lift the arms up to the sky. Hands come to your heart. Again, take a moment with the heartbeat as we continue to move and build heat. The heartbeat speeds up a little bit. But your breath is super powerful in that it can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So if we're in a fight or flight situation, your breath can help you respond appropriately. So you're able to slow down and wait before you react. You're able to really analyze if you're in danger or if you're just getting worked up over nothing. It helps us be more present, essentially. Your next inhale will lift the arms up to the sky. As you exhale, fold down. Your next inhale will lift up to that halfway lift here. So legs are somewhat straight, a little buoyancy through the knees, but not quite chair pose. Your hands can come to your hips here for a little more support, or they can stay to the ground or to a block. From here, I'm gonna put a little more of a bend into my left knee just so that I can pick up the heel of my right foot. And then I'm gonna begin to extend my right foot back and then step it all the way back. You can tap the knee down just like we did before, or come into your high crescent lunge this time. Arms will lift up. Exhale, hips will settle. So again, same thing, find strength as well as flexibility here. And we'll take one more breath. And then from here, you can use your hands or not. We're gonna begin to sweep those hands to the inside of that left leg. Pivot on your right foot so the heel spins down and straighten out your left leg. And then from here, we'll come down to a seat. My right foot is stamped down here, so I'm gonna begin to place the outer leg down to the earth so my heel can come in close to the groin. Left hand goes out to the side, maybe to the left leg, maybe to the floor or a prop. Right arm will begin to lift up and overhead. And if you like this side body stretch, you can stay here, or you can begin to kind of square off a bit toward that left leg and find a little forward fold. So whatever feels a little better in your body tonight. It doesn't have to look like my pose. It doesn't have to look like your pose did last week. Try to find some acceptance for where you are today, for better or for worse. And then when you're ready, we'll slowly begin to rise back up. We're gonna stamp that right foot back down, and then we're gonna perch back up into this kind of ninja-like position here. I'm gonna take my arms wide just so that I can kind of transition slowly, moving back into your crescent lunge, so gently spinning to the ball of the back foot. Get your bearings here, take an inhale. And then as you exhale, we're gonna release those hands just forward of the left foot, sort of like we did earlier. And then as your hands come forward, this time we're gonna launch off of the back foot and then straighten that standing leg. So your left leg comes to your version of straight. Hands can stay to the floor or to the hips or maybe to the heart. If you wanna add that arm variation, left arm back, right arm forward. You can even go further by placing that left hand toward your low back, your right hand behind the back of the neck, finding your cow face arms. Just a fancy add-on here. We're gonna take a really big breath in. And then as you exhale, we're gonna tap that right knee to the back of the left knee. So you can release the arms if this is too much. We're gonna slowly tap those right toes down in that curtsy position and come all the way down to a seat. So move slowly with your joints supported. I'm gonna begin to walk my left foot over to the right. If you feel like you're kind of wobbly here, this is a deep hip stretch. You can take that right leg forward and that should help you sit more evenly. If you feel good with your legs kind of stacked on top of one another, awesome. And then we're gonna go back to that arm variation or a version of it. So left hand to the low back, right hand to the upper back. You can walk the hands toward one another if you'd like, or you can use your shirt or a strap. And then you can stay upright and just kind of get the idea of sitting up levelly through the hips, keeping the neck and the shoulders relaxed. If you'd like to, you can experiment with a little forward fold. No pressure. I like to release my arms if I'm folding forward. Just listen to what feels best in your body. And from here, we'll slowly come up back into the seated position. We're gonna slide that left foot over toward the right thigh, whether the leg is extended straight or not. So your left knee is pointing up. We're gonna wrap that right arm around the knee or bring the elbow to the outer knee, moving into a twist. So the left hand will come behind you. And just take about 3 deep breaths. And the inhales, think about lengthening your spine, and the exhales help you to rotate. You can stay here, maybe turning your gaze toward that back shoulder, or you can turn your gaze forward toward the right shoulder and gently drop the chin in toward the top of that shoulder. And lifting your head back up if it's lowered. We'll bring the gaze forward as you unravel the twist. We'll take a counter twist to the right side. So you can just place your hands over to the right, maybe gently look over the back shoulder. And we're gonna exit this pose how we entered it. So a little bit of ninja skills here. Your hands can come forward, gently begin to come through that curtsy position. Rise up. Stay in your curtsy. We're gonna lean over, so grab a hold of that right wrist with the left hand, lean to the left. And then inhale, come back to center, 2 feet on the ground, mountain pose. Your nice strong stance here. Just taking a couple of breaths to reconnect. Feel one body or one side of the body compared to the next. And then from here, we'll begin to lift the arms up to the sky and fold down. And your fold will lift halfway up. And then this time we're gonna begin to root down through that right foot, begin to pick up the left heel, extend it back, and then slowly begin to step your way back into your high crescent lunge, or you can tap the knee down. Arms will lift up, hips will settle in. Any arm variation, you kind of stretch you're craving. Let's just take a couple more breaths here. We'll all lift the arms up on your next inhale. And as you exhale, sweep those hands through the inside of that right leg and pivot your back heel down as you come into that little seated position. So you're gonna bring the outer left leg down to the earth, tuck the heel in close to the hips. We'll start with a side body stretch, so right hand can come down. And left arm might reach up and overhead if that feels good. And then you can turn this into more of a squared off forward fold by adjusting your hips and chest to square off that over that right leg and find your release there. And then we'll rise back up when you're ready. We're gonna exit how we entered. So if you're trying out the no hands movement, awesome. If not, just place your hands down out in front of you. Left foot stamps down. We're gonna perch onto the ball of the foot and then transition slowly back up to your lunge, swinging back onto the ball of that back foot. Arms will lift high. Take a big breath in here. And as you exhale, we'll release the hands just forward of the right foot. Begin to launch up and straighten the right leg as you lift that left heel about as high as the hip. It can be lower, probably not any higher. You want your energy going more forward than downward. So try to balance out sort of like a seesaw action. Hands can stay down, or you can experiment with the arm variation. This time, left arm reaches forward, right arm reaches back. Maybe adding in that cow face arm variation here. This is my good side number 2 for this stretch, so find where you can latch on if you're adding that in. And from here, we're gonna move into that seated position. So draw your left knee toward the back of the right knee, and then tap the toes down, coming through the curtsy, land yourself down. So again, you can release the arms for a moment to get your bearings if you've got them. Then you can scoot that right foot over to the left. Maybe swing your left foot forward if that will help you stabilize a little bit. And then from here, this time we're gonna switch the arms, so bringing them the opposite direction. I'm building a little heat here. So that left hand will come down to the low back and the right arm will come up to the upper back. So again, just sitting up here can be quite a feat. So take your time. You're not in a rush to fold down. You're always welcome to slow down and just listen to your breath as it moves through the body in this shape. Maybe you add on the fold. You can keep the arms for that or release them. Whatever feels right for your shoulders, your hips. No pose should be so distracting on the physical level that you're not able to kind of have a meditative moment. From here, we'll rise back up. We're gonna begin to scoot that right foot back over so it connects with that left thigh. Left leg can still be straight here. We're gonna begin to twist. So that right hand comes behind you this time. Left arm can wrap around that right knee, or you can bring the elbow to the outer leg. Maybe looking over the right shoulder. Tried that neck variation on the other side. Begin to draw your chin around toward the left shoulder and then drop it in a little bit. And then from here, lifting the head back up. We're going to begin to move into a counter twist. So begin to twist over toward that left side. Hands can land wherever feels best. Maybe the gaze goes over that back shoulder. And we'll begin to come back to center. We're going to exit the pose how we entered it. So that right foot stamps down. You're gonna begin to lean forward just enough so you can tuck the left toes under. We're preparing for that curtsy. As you lift up, begin to rise up, knees are slightly bent, arms will lift up. Maybe grabbing that left wrist and leaning to the right. And then we'll rise back up, stepping that left foot around to meet the right. Shake out anything you need to. We're actually going to come to the long edge of the mat from here, so just step to the center. And then you're going to begin to heel toe your feet out, coming into kind of a V shape through your legs. We'll lift the arms up to the sky on a breath in, and as you breathe out, begin to bend slightly to your knees and fold down. In your fold, you can kind of move through anything that feels good. So maybe a little side to side motion will help stretch out the inner thighs and hips. You can take a moment folding over either leg if you'd like, adding a twist. One of my favorite things to do, if you have any low back tension, if you sit at a computer for long periods of time or drive in your car, walking your hands forward and taking a super wide leg down dog so it's not too much pressure in your hands at all. Letting your chest just melt down. This is a really nice release for the back. Sending your weight a little bit more back into the heels of the feet for this variation. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. And then from here, we're slowly going to begin to rise all the way back up to standing. So take your time as you do that. We'll begin to pivot that left foot around toward the skinny edge of the mat that it's facing. We'll begin to bend into that knee, coming into our warrior 2 pose here. So your back foot, your right foot will be parallel with the opposite skinny edge of the mat. Arms will come wide into a T position, or if that's too much for your shoulders, hands can just come to your heart. So this is a lot of strength for the lower body. So you're feeling your outer left hip draw toward the right inner thigh to stabilize you here. You can stay here. Maybe you add an arm stretch or a little pulse in and out of it. You could lift the arms on an inhale, settle in on an exhale. If you need more strength, a little more shaking, you can pick up the heel of the left foot, send your hips down a couple inches deeper, and you'll really start to shake a little bit. I call it the yoga twerk. Not quite as cute probably, but one more breath here. We'll land the left heel down if it's lifted. Begin to reverse your triangle. So straighten your right or your left leg, lift your left arm up and overhead. Right hand can maybe slide down the side of that right leg. And then from here, we'll begin to tee the arms here. And we'll begin to pivot the hips toward the back of the mat. So you can place your left hand down to a block or to the shin as the right arm lifts up. And one of my favorite neck stretches here is to wrap my right arm behind my low back, maybe around toward the left thigh, and then drop that left ear toward the left shoulder. Try to stay light through that left hand wherever it is. Let your legs do some work here. We're going to begin to move into, if you like, a balancing half moon. So you can stay in your triangle pose. This is a great prep for this next pose. You can use your hand, bringing it to the floor or to a block forward of the left foot and then over a few inches. So we'll begin to pivot our weight forward into this front leg like we did for Warrior 3, but this time your hips and shoulders will open out to the right. You can take your right hand to your hip. That usually helps with balance. Energize your right foot like you're trying to kick the wall behind the back of the mat. And then if you want to really embrace our Look Ma No Hands theme today, maybe you experiment with lifting the left hand up, even if it's just for a second. Sometimes we're so hands-on We're so controlling that we forget to be present. So letting go of that comfort of being able to touch the floor helps us to be more aware. One more breath. And we'll slowly tap that right foot down. And you're gonna rise back up, spin all 10 toes forward, take your forward fold. Releasing the head and neck down. Again, movement is always okay, or stillness. And from here, we'll rise back up into our star pose, essentially. We're gonna begin to spin that right foot forward. Left foot is now parallel with the skinny edge of the mat. Bending into your right knee, finding your warrior two. So just finding the strength of this pose first before we stretch everything out. Any arm variation you'd like to take. If you added that little more intense variation, maybe you lift the heel of the right foot. Feel that shaking. It just means something is changing, something's happening. Let's take one more breath here. Gently landing that right heel down. Begin to reverse your triangle. So straighten the front leg and slide your left hand down your back leg. And then we'll move into our full triangle pose by leveling the arms to a T position. Bump your left hip back so your right hand is a little closer to land to the shin or a block. Left arm can go up. If you're adding that neck variation, maybe you swing that left hand behind your back and then drop your right ear now towards your right shoulder. Now you can stay here in your triangle pose. If you'd like to add the balancing element, you're going to begin to take your right hand forward of the right foot and then over to the right about 3 inches. Launching forward, begin to pick your hips and your shoulders up so that you can open out toward the left side. Left hand can stay on the hip, you can reach it up, you can experiment with what works. Again, if you're playing with that, no hands here, begin to experiment with the idea of lifting your fingertips up. Yes, it makes things harder, it means you have to pay attention, you can't take it super seriously. If you fall, it's not a big deal, just get back up. Continue to breathe. That breath is more important than being perfectly still here. One more breath wherever you are. We'll step that left foot back. Again, coming into that wide stance here. Breathing in, let's lift the arms up. And as you breathe out, folding down to your last little wide leg fold. From here, we'll lift up about halfway. Begin to heel toe the feet in a little closer. So the heels come in, the toes go out, coming into your Malasana squat. If sitting down that low is too much for your knees or ankles, you can sit onto a block or something sturdy underneath you. Hands can come together here, or if you want to stretch the wrists out, bring the backs of the hands together, and then maybe kind of gently bend into one knee and then the other, and you'll feel different pressure there. I like to kind of wiggle my fingertips around a little bit. Sort of feel like an alien in this position when I'm moving my fingertips around. It's cool. A little yoga alien. And we'll take one more breath here. Awesome, and then from here, we'll just swing those hands gently behind us. If it works for you, just begin to drop back to your hips from here. We'll scoot forward, so we're still at the long edge of the mat. Take your feet wide, lean into your hands, and just drop the knees side to side a couple times. And then from here, we'll begin to bring the soles of the feet together. We're gonna bring our legs into this diamond shape called butterfly pose or Baddha Konasana pose. Hands come onto the shins, and we'll take an inhale to stretch the heart through the chest a little bit. And then arch your back here, maybe looking slightly up. And as you exhale, round your back toward the space behind you, letting your chin drop into your chest. Inhale, heart reaches forward. Gaze lifts up. And exhale, round the back. One more round just like that. Inhale. And exhale. The next time you come into your inhale, stay in that open heart position. And then as you exhale, begin to maintain this position as you fold down. So you may not come all the way down to the floor or to your toes. Try to get those expectations out of your mind and just allow yourself to land where you need to. Softening through the muscles of the jaw, the shoulders here, maybe even turning your palms up just as a way of receiving whatever this pose, this practice today has meant to you. And just being a little more open-handed with the way that we deal with our bodies, we deal with stress and tension in our lives. Embracing this idea of just trust, being content with who we are and where we are. And then from here, we'll rise up. Gently begin to guide the outer legs in so that your inner knees come together. Wrap your arms around your shins, curl up, give yourself a big hug here. And then from here, we'll begin to turn that left leg toward the skinny edge of the mat that it's facing. Your right leg can come down at the side like so. So you're in a deer position is what it's called. Or you can take your right leg straight back behind you and come into a half pigeon. Chest will lift up a bit here. You'll press into the thighs, elevate the hips a bit. If you need a blanket under your left hip, that might be helpful. Begin to fold yourself down. We'll just take about 3 to 4 breaths in this pose, not long, just kind of enjoying this outer hip stretch. And then from here, gently begin to rise up. And we'll just go to the other side. So the right shin will come down. Left leg can go wherever you prefer it to go. And then lowering down when you feel ready for that deeper release. From here, we'll rise back up. This time, slide onto that right hip, swing your left leg around and forward. We'll take both legs out in front of us, lift the arms up on a big inhale. And as you exhale, reach the arms forward, begin to round your back into that angry cat position here. And see if you can lower down one little bitty vertebrae at a time. As you come all the way to your spine, arms will reach up and overhead. Open your mouth and sigh the breath out. And then you can give yourself any final poses you need to close out your practice today. So maybe it's just a big hug. Maybe it's some kind of actual yoga pose or movement that you're craving. But the most important part of the yoga practice is just these couple of moments at the end of the practice where we just get to sit and absorb the space we've created, kind of bask in the awareness that we now have of our bodies, our minds, and our hearts. This yoga, this union that we've been able to generate with our time. So once you're ready, begin to just find a place where you can be still just for a few moments, a few breaths. You can even allow the breath to relax and return to its natural, organic rhythm. Noticing the weight of the body as it settles into the earth. Begin to deepen your breath here. If you'd like to stay in this position, you're always welcome to stay as long as you'd like. Otherwise, begin to reawaken by spreading the fingers, the toes, maybe gently rolling the head side to side. We'll take the arms overhead one final time for a big inhale. Exhale it out. And then bending into the knees, we'll drop over to one side, coming into our fetal position. This position here just represents the fresh start that you've been able to create. This opportunity you have to begin again in this brand new moment. So we'll begin to press up to a comfortable seat whenever you're ready for it. Hands land into the lap for a moment as you just find a nice tall seat. And then when you feel settled, hands will come together at the heart. As your thumbs rest to the chest, you might feel those inner rhythms still at work. Your heart is beating right beneath the surface. Your natural breath is flowing. These rhythms are here with you in this moment as well as in the moments ahead of you tonight and this week. As a sweet reminder that you are here. You're alive, you are present, and that means you are very truly blessed. Namaste.